Joining me now is a lawyer, Olatobosu Oshifora. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning, my pleasure.
Now, let's start with what you make of the government's decision to evacuate immediately some Nigerians who are willing to return back home.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction because at least for the first time, I mean, we have a government that is proactive. You can see that your citizens are not wanted in a foreign land, and the best thing to do, first of all, is to get them out of the place before you take other steps, maybe diplomatic steps or whatever steps there are. But I mean, safety first. That's what the government has done and is quite commendable.
Now, taking it a step further beyond safety, the next question on the minds of people is, what's next for them? Because the government has said that it is going to, include them into the social program. But for some persons, it doesn't seem to look sustainable when you say you want to, include these people into social programs.
Well, it's another brilliant idea because you're bringing in some people from a far land and find they probably have lost everything, lost their livelihood, lost whatever remains for them, as humans be outside their lives. And then it's just normal for you to find a space for them. Some of them have been gone for years. Some of them have lost touch, with the realities in Nigeria. So what is appropriate is for you to incorporate them into the system by, creating things that that can sustain them economically.
But
how realistic this is, I want to have faith in the government because those of us here, there are no socio-economic programs, as it were, even for citizens that are here. Palpable ones, the ones that
because
we can see.
You would recall that those that were returned from Libya also had the same challenge.
Exactly.
And now we are having about 300 or 640 of them.
I was going to make reference to that if we allude to the Libyan situation, some of them are still loafing. In fact, we've seen most of the people who came from Libya are being held by churches and, NGOs and all that, and government hasn't done anything. So this is maybe one of those promises. But I just want to have faith in the government and believe that something is in the offing. But really, if we go by the fate of those who were in Libya, then I don't see the government doing anything tangible. Then what do you want to give them? Trader money? 10,000? Somebody coming from South Africa to Nigeria?
Well, like you said, we can only keep faith with the government. But thank you so much, Olatobosu Oshifora, for your time on TVC Breakfast. Well, joining me now is a lawyer, Olatobosu Oshifora. Thank you so much for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning, my pleasure.
We know that Nigerians are returning back home, but then there are some still in South Africa who are still trying to make up their minds whether to return or not. And then the question as to how do we resolve these issues of xenophobic attacks, not just attacks, but then protection of Nigerians outside the country. We know that Nigeria is part of several organizations, but then people expect that our relationship should go beyond just having a relationship on paper or being part of an association, but that its citizens in these countries be protected. Where do we begin? Or how do we leverage on these relationships?
First of all, war is not an option, so we can't go. I mean, I've heard people say that let's go and level South Africa. That's not. That's not going to work. We're brothers. We're still brothers, regardless of the frictions and what have you. But we can only explore diplomatic routes, and also.
Haven't we been doing that?
We need to step up our game.
In what aspects?
We have to be firm in some areas. I mean, all of us expected, for example, the president to come up and give a stern statement, a firm statement that we will not take this. Fine, some envoys were sent in, but for some of us, that was not enough. That's one. Then there's the option of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. We could actually bring an action in that regard against the government.
has said that South Africa should pay a fine compensation, so to speak, of about $10 billion.
It's not very much the fine. It's about making a statement that we will not condone this and we will not allow this to go. If fines now come, fine. But it's not very much about the fines. It's very much about making a statement that while people will believe in our people and will believe in the security and safety of lives of our citizens wherever they are. I mean, you can't try that with Americans.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, you wouldn't hear the last of it. So then there's a diplomatic route. There's also we could come up with, look at what people did going after South African investment. That is a no-no. That is not the way to go. I mean,
Me now as a lawyer, Olatunbosun Oshifora. Good morning. It's really nice to see you.
My pleasure.
Right. You hear the ministers talking about proactive measures at this time. One would think that these are things that should have been done or taken note of long before now.
Sometimes some of these things, let's cut them some slack. Some of these things, take time,
Okay.
you know, and you have two sets of people. There are those who are documented, there are those who are undocumented. So then the way the thing panned out, people had to, scamper for safety. So now that the dust is settling, you can now call them, okay, please come out. This is the government's initiative. At least even the locals will allow you to just, since you're going back to your country, and that's what they want. So they'll allow you, free passage, as it were. Right. So, but sometimes it takes time. In fact, I'm miffed. I'm surprised that Nigerian government is actually coming up
in
strong
a very
like
long while,
yes,
taking a very decisive.
This is commendable.
Has been receiving commendations from citizens.
Very commendable.
Even we've had comments from Nigerians in Canada and in the United States saying, thumbs up to Nigeria for the first time in a long while.
I've been a critic of this government, a vehement one, but this is thumbs up.
All right, the Minister of Defense, South African Minister of Defense, was on a TV interview with a local media recently, and he was talking about the fact that South Africans are an angry people, that the nation is an angry nation. I'm quoting her directly, and she said that no government can outrightly handle these issues. What do you make of that? Because everyone still says that the government is the one in position to do that.
Permit this expression, that's a bloody lie. It's sad that a government can watch its people destroy other people, and I mean, you've seen videos over the week that Nigeria was very instrumental to you people getting liberated from the whites, and now you're facing us. That's a lame excuse from a government. How can you say you're an angry people? So what are we? We were peaceful people then, or we are what? We're victims, or what kind of people do you think we are? So we just want to be victims everywhere we go. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It is lame, and that shouldn't come from a government. They allow these things to fester. This is not the first time, but maybe this is the highest point. And I think definite measures should be taken by government against these people. So they could go as far as maybe courts of, they could go to African courts.
Okay. In fact, I would like us to talk about Serapis has written to the African Union Commission and all of that. I would like us to talk about that later on. But right now, we're expecting about over 300 Nigerians back this afternoon at 2 p.m. How do you think they should be engaged when they come back, when they return?
Now that part, if we want to be realistic, if we look at the people who came from Libya, the government didn't do anything, and government has done this one, bringing them brilliant, but engaging them, I don't see government coming up with anything. They can promise heaven and earth, but I don't see, even the locals are not having a good feel of this government when it comes to social security and engagement meaningfully, economically. So I don't see government doing anything. It will just be promises. They should come up with something definite for them, because these are people who have lost their livelihood,
their businesses and all
everything.
Of that,
So, but I think government should actually sit them down. If it's a loan, if it's a grant, something to start up life, because some of them have been out of the system for a long time. So they need to be properly integrated.
Olatunbosun Oshifora, thank you so much for your insight into this.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Right.